in your brand new laboratories at the university? Creating Frankenstein monsters, creating strange, odd things? And the answer is no. There are a set of regulations that control what goes on, and there's also common sense and good judgment and, you know, ethics. But there are a series of regulations. You might recall during the election, some of the campaign ads against Proposition 2 were, this is like the Wild West. There is no regulation. It's not true. There is federal regulation called Protection of Human Subjects, so-called institutional review boards, that covers this area. And there are a series of rules that the NIH has put together. They were published July 7, 2009. In the materials that you have, there are references to everything that I'm talking about if you want to get more detail. I just, you know, we have so much to tell that we could spend all day, and you don't have all day, so I've given you the background material. But the NIH rules are very strict. If you look at them, they make it quite clear that there has to be a voluntary donation of embryos created for reproductive purposes and no longer wanted for reproductive purposes, that there has to be informed consent where the people who created the embryos clearly understand the purposes to which the embryos will be put. There can't be any compensation. We can't encourage people to donate. This is a free, voluntary choice that they make. There are, as I say, institutional review board rules. Any research involving identifiable human subjects, which includes fetuses, embryos, has to be approved by an institutional review board. Institutional review board has scientific members, non-scientific members, and community members. So we have people from the community unaffiliated with the institution making sure that the research is appropriate. There are Institute of Medicine guidelines. This book, Guidelines for Human Embryonic Stem Cell Research, contains the guidelines of the Institute of Medicine, and they make a number of very important suggestions, including suggestions about the ethics of stem cell research. They mandate things like public education, and the state of Michigan has been maybe inundated isn't the right word, Marilyn, but we've certainly done a lot of public research, public education in the past couple of years on stem cells. And I personally have talked to more Kiwanis clubs than I probably want to remember. But it is important. I learned a lot of interesting songs too when I. But it is very important. It's very important to do the education. It's very important to look at and not forget the ethical implications of this research. One of the things that the Institute of Medicine suggests is that any institution doing this kind of research have its own oversight committee. And the University of Michigan has an escrow committee set up according to the Institute of Medicine guidelines to review every proposed research project. Again, it has community members. Our community member is a former superintendent of schools for Washtenaw County. We have scientists and non-scientists on that board. We look very carefully at each proposed research. Then the IRB looks at it, then the scientific review committees look at it. This is not something that just somebody gets up in the middle of the night and says, oh, I have a good idea, and rushes off to their lab. There's lots of oversight. There's lots of regulation. Now, the NIH, as I said, just set up a working group to try to look at what the ethics has to be, and we will be guided by those rules as well. Even though Prop 2 passed last November, the university has not started to do research under Prop 2 because we were waiting for the NIH July 7 guidelines. We were waiting for the new material. We want to do it right. We don't want to do it fast. We want to do it right. And so we're making sure that we are in line with all these regulations. How is Michigan being viewed after Prop 2 passed? Well, Michigan is being viewed very favorably. There is a group called the World Stem Cell Summit. At their meeting this year, they gave an award to the folks that work at the group that helped campaign, Cures for Michigan, that helped campaign for the passage of Proposition 2. And they are seriously considering bringing the World Stem Cell Summit to Michigan next year, because they see us as a progressive state that are moving forward in an important research area. What other oversight is there? Well, the Bureau of National Affairs publishes a journal called Medical Research Law and Policy, and they report regularly on stem cell issues. So there is material for the public. We have a public website. We try to be as transparent as possible on the kind of work that we are doing. That's all important, and that all puts us in a position where we can compete for grants, where we can compete on the national stage, and where we can try to get the promise of stem cell research going forward. And what I want to do now is turn the podium over to Jack so that he can talk about what the promise of stem cell research is and what we are doing. Then I will come back and take questions, but if there are any burning questions right now, I'm happy to address them. If not, Jack and I will just be up here at the end and we'll have plenty of time to take your questions. Burning questions, things that you didn't understand. Craig.
As a foundation for your discussion and Jack's, a lot of people are curious about why there are embryos that are, where do they come from?
Sure.
And why are they otherwise going to be destroyed?
Sure. So basically, and Jack can expand on this, in vitro fertilization is a process by which an embryo can be created outside the womb. And the idea is you can take sperm, you can take the eggs, you can create an embryo in a dish. You can look at that embryo to see if it exhibits characteristics that are inconsistent with normal development. You can do what is called pre-implantation genetic diagnosis and actually take a cell out and look to see if the embryo contains the gene for Tay-Sachs disease or Huntington's disease or some other thing. And you can then take what are presumed to be healthy normal embryos and place them back into the uterus of the woman, and if they implant, they can grow and develop. Now, the success rate of in vitro fertilization is about 33% on the first go-round. That means you need to have extra embryos in case it doesn't work the first time around. So when embryos are created, several embryos are created. The ones that are going to be used are implanted either on day 3 or day 5 of their division in their life. And the other embryos don't get implanted. Why don't we implant all of them at once? Because then we get octomums. And we don't want octomums, so we only implant 1 or 2 embryos, and the others go into a freezer to be used for the next round if necessary. Well, what if the first round takes? And what if people say, I'm happy with the size of my family, I don't want any more children? Now we have some embryos in a freezer. How many of those do we have? I don't know the exact number, but the number that gets floated around is over 500,000 embryos in freezers, only a small portion of which are likely to be used for fertilization. Jack. So, no other burning questions? I forgot my, oh, I'm sorry, right in front of me, yeah.
When they do the pre-implantation genetic testing, and then they find that, now this embryo is really not suitable for planting.
Yeah.
What happens currently to that embryo, and secondly, now because of Prop 2,
Yeah.
will there be something different that can be done with that embryo?
Prop 2 says human embryos that were created for the purpose of fertility